The Oklahoma Sooners championship run comes to a shocking end.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year over at monarchmoney.com. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports, and on today's show, we're going to ask the question, does Oklahoma have a 1,000-yard rusher in their backfield? How is Jim Nagy making life easier for the Oklahoma Sooners? But we're going to start with this. The top story of the day is Oklahoma softball's championship run coming to an end. 4 straight national titles against Texas Tech. They lost 3-2 in a game where for the first 6 innings of the game, it looks like Oklahoma might be shut out for the first time since 2019, back when Alabama did it. But the Sooners and Abigale Dayton come through with a little bit more Sooner magic, maybe not quite enough Sooner magic on that night, but Abigale Dayton hits a home run, a 2-run bomb to deep right center field, and it ties the game up in the 7th, and you're thinking, the Sooners have a chance. That's all you needed, is just something to spark a comeback against Naggie Kennedy, the best pitcher in college softball, and then in the bottom of the 7th, Sam Landry, she gets a ground ball out to start the inning. You're like, okay, cooking still, up over 120 pitches. I think I saw a stat where she'd thrown well over 400 pitches in the Women's College World Series. Like, she's just been grinding. And then, they get another dribbler. It was like a ground ball dribbler through the middle that gives them the first base runner of the inning. And then she gets doubled off the wall, which that one really surprised me because, yeah, she'd been hit hard, but not that hard throughout the game. And, Cassidy Pickering goes back, tries to make a good play on it, just comes up short. I mean, just short. You go watch that replay and I mean, could she have taken another step back or two? But that ball was hit hard and it was going to be a tough play to make. And I get, you want to see your team make every single play out there, but sometimes the other team just beats you. And that's just what happened. Cassidy Pickering put herself in a good position to try to make a play on it. Again, that ball was hit so hard and so fast and was coming up on her really quickly that she didn't have enough time to make the right positional play. And here we are. And that double puts second and third with 1 out. And they elect to go ahead and pitch to the batter as opposed to putting her on first base. And I'm sure there's going to be hot debate about that for the next several days, weeks, maybe over the next year, who knows? But, Sam Landry gives up the fly ball. Sydney Barker comes up, gets it, throws it in, but it's not in time. Texas Tech wins the game and moves on to the Women's College World Series Championship Series, where they'll take on the Texas Longhorns. But for the Sooners, it's a young softball team filled with a number of transfer players playing big-time roles for this team, from Gabby Garcia to redshirt freshman Nellie McEnroe Marinas to Sydney Barker, playing good ball. Like, she was 3 for 3 off Nigel. 3 for 3. A true freshman. 3 for 3 off Naggie Kennedy. That's just nuts right there. Like, that part in and of itself. Were they, soft singles? Absolutely. But they were singles. She was 3 for 3. That stuff matters for something, and you look at the rest of the lineup and, Pickering was 0 for 4, didn't have her best day. Ella Parker, she was 1 for 3. She had a leadoff single in the 6th that gave Oklahoma a chance, but couldn't really get there. Gabby Garcia was 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Nellie McEnroe Marinas was 0 for 3. I think she popped it up 3 times. Sydney Sanders was 0 for 1, but she had a walk and a hit by pitch. And Abigail, or Ilana Agbayani, she was 0 for 3 as well. So he had a lot of 0 for days. So the fact that the true freshman Sydney Barker came through with a 3 for 3 day is pretty incredible. Isabella Emmerling, 0 for 3 as well. The fact that she didn't strike out is pretty incredible. But Oklahoma left 5 on base. Just didn't really have much of an answer for Nigel for the first 6 innings of the game. And really, I mean, Abigale Dayton coming through in the clutch with the 2-run home run. How that is maybe the most shocking part of this entire run, is that somebody with coming into the game with just 2 home runs on the season, hitting her 3rd home run, and it coming off of Nyjah Kennedy in a moment like that to tie the game up for the Sooners. Like, to me, that was the most shocking part of this entire 2025 season. And I know a lot of people are out there talking about Oklahoma's done, the dynasty's over, it's a team that's not going to be able to get back, whatever. This Oklahoma Sooners softball team is set up, man. They're set up for the long run. Do they have some things that they need to address in the offseason? Absolutely. Every team's going to. They're going to need some transfer portal additions. But you look at what the roster is made up of. The core of this team. Gabby Garcia hit 20 home runs this year and played dynamite at shortstop. Nelly McEnroe-Marinas had a big year for the Sooners. Was one of their best hitters all year long. Played dynamite at third base. Cassidy Pickering, Ella Parker, they're going to be going into their junior season for the Sooners. You've got Abigale Dayton coming back to play outfield for you. Again, Sydney Barker, who hit well over 370 for the Sooners this year. She'll be back. She's just a true freshman. You've got a number of freshmen on this team that played significant roles this year. And then you have another group that got into the lineup here and there, didn't really play significant innings, but they're players that Patty Gasso really likes and thinks will develop into everyday players. And they're on that roster right now. And they're bringing in a really nice recruiting class as well. And that they're going to have some significant transfer portal additions because they did this past year. I mean, Ilana Agbayani, Abigale Dayton were 2 really important transfer portal additions. Agbayani was a Gold Glove second baseman. Abigale Dayton, she just had that clutch gene in her and provided that second leadoff hitter at the back end of the lineup for the Sooners. So this isn't a team that's going to be going anywhere. Do they need to find another frontline pitcher? Yeah, they do. Kirsten Deal, Audrey Lowry, they provided some big innings for the Sooners down the stretch, but it was clear that Patty Gasso and Jennifer Rocha wanted to ride Sam Landry's arm, either because they just believed that they wanted to give Sam Landry that opportunity in her senior season, or they just didn't feel as comfortable with their secondary options at pitcher. If you think, or beyond pitcher, I think they could go get a catcher, maybe somebody with a little bit more pop. Or do they think Corey Hicks is the answer at catcher? Do they have an answer at catcher with one of their freshmen? Because they've got a couple freshmen. Corey Hicks is one of them, and the other one is escaping me. But you've got options on the roster to push Isabella Emmerling for that starting catcher's role. Can they do it? But ultimately, it comes down to this. Patty Gasso, JT Gasso, Jennifer Rocha, that staff is the best staff in softball. They're going to have an answer for this. And you could see the confidence in Patty Gasso in the post-game press conference talking about the future of the program. You can't win them all. They won 4 straight. This is a remarkable run that I don't think we fully grasped just how crazy it is yet. We're still in the wake of Oklahoma actually losing in the Women's College World Series, something we haven't seen since 2019. Since before I started hosting this show, before I started running Sooners Wire, that's how long ago Oklahoma's last elimination from the Women's College World Series was. And that's just absolutely crazy. I saw PFF Drill put it out there on social media. He wrote, over the last 10 years, this is Oklahoma's run from 2016, champions, semifinalist, runner-up, the 2020 COVID year. No Women's College World Series was played. Champions, and then third place in the Women's College World Series, another semifinalist. So over the last 10 years, they were a semifinalist or better, and 6 times they won a national championship. The lady's going to be just fine. Coming up, Jim Nagy making life easier for Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll discuss. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, check spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year over at monarchmoney.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. George Soya was down in Destin for Sooner Scoop for the SEC meetings last week and had a really nice interview with Brent Venables. It's written over there at Sooner Scoop, part of On 3. Make sure you go subscribe over there because it's part of their subscription content. But I wanted to share just kind of one quote here from that article. And then again, go check that out. George does great work covering the Sooners. He says, the addition of Jim in that front office has allowed me not to have to worry as much. You're still involved in a little bit, but the resource allocation, the talent retention, the talent acquisition, the talent evaluation between putting together a staff and then dealing with both the 26 class and moving forward, it has been a lot of fun developing trust and relationships. If you want to have something healthy that's built the right way, it's all of us together, linking arms, checking egos, having very clearly defined processes in place, then having the professionalism that it takes to work together and do things the right way. That's been a lot of fun to be able to help in that transition. So this is a whole new world of college football, the general manager role. Jim Nagy, general manager for the Oklahoma Sooners, stepping into something that hasn't really had a clearly defined process in the history of college football. You've had directors of player personnel, you've had scouting directors, you've had, front office administration kind of guys, but generally it was like the coach was at the top of the football hierarchy and everything else came from that. Everybody else answered to the Nick Sabans, the Kirby Smarts, the Barry Switzers, the Bud Wilkinsons, the Bob Stoops. They were the CEO of the football team, running every operation. Now, delegating a lot to assistants and to scouts and to grad assistants and, player personnel people. But this is a whole new world of college football where a general manager is coming in and working alongside a coach and having, in a lot of ways, a little bit more authority on some things. Now, the general manager is never going to tell a coach how to coach a football game or how to coach a team, but he's very much going to be actively telling a coach, hey, this is what we need to be looking for in players as we're scouting the transfer portal, as we're scouting the high school ranks. These are the traits that are going to make for a really good football player. And these are the things that are going to stand out as they continue to develop that, hey, people may not see it in them right now, but they've got the potential to be great because of these certain things, because of arm length, because of speed, because of athleticism, whatever it is. Some guys are going to fly under the radar every single offseason or every single recruiting class. And it's up to the coaches to find those guys, especially in the name, image, and likeness world, especially as we get closer to revenue sharing. The more that you can find those diamonds in the rough, the better off you're going to be, because you can't always go out and get the 5-star. You're not always going to do that. You're going to get some, but not every player on your roster is going to be a 5-star player. And so you got to find those guys like a Drake Stoops who can play above their star ranking, who can play above what everybody expects of them or thinks of them in high school. They're guys that are going to develop. And so you look at this, and I like that it makes things a little bit easier for Brent Venables. I like that it takes things off my head coach's plate because the head coach has so many things to deal with. In the article, he talked about having to deal with contract negotiations last October during the season, trying to figure out retention and things like that. Like, or with the recruiting class, like you're having to do all that while you're also trying to coach a football game and prepare for a team. That's the kind of stuff you don't need happening. And now he can point that to the general manager and be like, hey, any contract stuff, you got to go talk to Jim because that's his realm. That's how we've set it up. He's going to be the guy to talk to. I'm here for you. I got your back, but you got to go talk to Jim. And that's going to take a lot of stress off the coach and the assistant coach's plate. From a talent evaluation standpoint, Jim Nagy and his staff, they've got a lot of success in talent evaluation. So does Brent Venables. So does Todd Bates and Brandon Hall and all those other assistants. They have a long track record of success in talent evaluation as well. But being able to blend those two together in a cohesive unit where the coaches and the front office guys can figure out what traits Brent Venables is looking for, along with what traits Jim Nagy is looking for, blend that together and create a uniform approach. That's going to benefit everybody. When you have more eyes on guys, that's going to benefit everybody out there. And it just is going to streamline the whole process. You know, there's been a lot of talk about how Brent or the recruiting approach, the transfer portal approach, maybe wasn't super aggressive the last few months, that we weren't getting a lot of commitments, not seeing a lot of movement on some of the top guys potentially on their recruiting board. Okay. Yeah. That's kind of par for the course. It's typical for Oklahoma. They don't really start seeing commitments drop until June, July, August in their recruiting classes. But maybe people were expecting to see more crystal balls or have a little bit more of an understanding of where this recruiting class is going, who are the top guys that they're targeting and prioritizing. We know that Jake Krell, the edge out of IMG, is one of those guys. We know that Bo Bentley is another one of those guys. Sorry, having brain farts. Haven't had my coffee yet this morning. That Bo Bentley is one of those guys that is a top target on their board. But I imagine that they've got a bunch of guys that maybe they're now getting involved with because Jim Nagy is a part of the conversation, that he's seeing traits in some dudes that he wants to develop. And they talk about it in the article too, as well, that, you know, finding guys that are in it for the long haul is key for development. You don't want guys that come like a Derek LeBlanc and are here one off season, don't like the vibe of what's going on, don't like maybe the lack of attention, the lack of meaningful reps with the first team, and they bolt before they ever play it down for the Sooners. No, they're looking for guys that are going to be made up of the right stuff. They're going to be in for the long haul, because Brent Venables points to the retention aspect of what they've done this offseason, in particular with the 2022 recruiting class, the Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, R. Mason Thomas, Grayson Halton, Robert Spears Jennings, Jacob Sexton, Jake Taylor, those guys, that group of guys, Gentry Williams, is going to play a significant role for this team. And there's always a chance every offseason that you could lose significant pieces to the transfer portal. People were coming after R. Mason Thomas. They were coming after Jaden Jackson. I guarantee they were coming after Grayson Halton, Robert Spears Jennings, all those guys. But the fact that they're coming back just shows how important the relationship and the retention aspect of your roster is. And Brent Venables and his staff have built great relationships with those guys, but they also had to do work to retain them. And I mean, that's the world of college football now. But now you've got another group of guys that are simply devoted to building your roster and retaining your roster in Jim Nagy and his front office. That's their only role. That's their only job, is scouting, recruiting, and retaining. Brent Venables and his staff, they'll recruit, they'll scout, but their job is very much going to be more focused on the development and retention aspect of what we're trying to do at Oklahoma. I'm excited, man. Listen, Oklahoma's got to go win games this year. That's really what it comes down to. Brent Venables, John Mateer, Ben Arbuckle, those guys got to go win football games, because what Oklahoma's created with this foundation of Venables as the head coach and Jim Nagy as the GM, it has long-term implications. But if you don't win enough football games, Brent Venables might not be around long enough to see the future unfold. We'll see. Will Oklahoma have a 1,000-yard rusher in 2025? I asked y'all. Y'all responded. Let's discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners. And again, thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so the Oklahoma Sooners made a big-time addition in Jayden Ott in the spring transfer portal window. They brought in one of the best running backs over the last several years. And I asked the question over on social media. I said, will the Oklahoma Sooners running back Jayden Ott run for 1,000 yards, buy or sell? And several people said buy. You had guys like OG Slackers say sell. Brian Clark said, I hope so. Not Today says, great question. Depends if he starts, then disappears for a half, then doesn't start the following week and rarely touches the ball with no real understanding based on performance, kind of the way our running back room has been managed for a bit. Hope he does. Big C says, I'm going no. Too many factors against him, injury, playing time, etc. DJ says just shy, probably in the 800s. And Tracy says it will depend on the performance of our O-line. This, and I can get to a few more here in a second, but it's an interesting question because Oklahoma hasn't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Eric Gray. That seems like forever ago. And that season, he was basically your number one. You had Javonte Barnes, you had Gavin Sawchuk, you had some options, but Eric Gray was it, man. Like, I don't think they wanted to give the bulk of the work to Javonte Barnes. They didn't really want a 50-50 split. They wanted to ride Eric Gray. But over the last several seasons, 23, 24, or a couple seasons, you haven't had an opportunity to do that because injuries to Javonte Barnes, to Gavin Sawchuk. You've had issues with your offensive line in 2024. That 2023 group was really, really good. But again, your running back injuries created an up and down running back rotation. You know, you could rely on Javonte Barnes for a little bit, and then it was Gavin Sawchuk for a little bit. And then, they just had too many dudes that they weren't willing to give the ball to full time with a full-time workload. And then last year, I mean, you had a lot of issues with the quarterback play, the offensive line play. Even when there was stuff there for the running back to have, the quarterback didn't give him the ball. And so hopefully this year things are a little bit simpler and more streamlined. You've got a guy like Jayden Ott coming into what is going to be his last year of college football. And I could totally see Oklahoma doing what they did with Eric Gray, in that they just ride him. They ride Jayden Ott. They let him be the number one guy, the workhorse in the running back room. And then they sprinkle in Javonte Barnes. Is it possible that DeMarco Murray goes with a heavy running back rotation like he has in the past, with Jayden Ott leading the way, getting a 60% split, maybe Javonte Barnes getting 30%, and then Taylor Tatum and Xavier Robinson getting the other 10. I don't know. Could it be, those young guys overtake Javonte Barnes in the running back room? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see. But if Jayden Ott doesn't get at least 60% of the workload this year, to me, that's really disappointing, because you made a significant play for a significant talent at running back. You cannot underutilize him like we've seen Oklahoma underutilize the running back room over the last couple of years. No, you're going to have to give him touches, man. He's a guy that's going to need 15, 20 touches a game. And then if you want to go give another 10 to 15 touches to some of those other guys in the running back room, by all means, go do it. But you've got to ride your running back. You've got to ride Jayden Ott. He's a big play threat every time he touches the ball. He's a guy that's going to be able to bounce off tackles in the SEC. He's going to find the running lanes. He's a very patient runner. And if the offensive line is better, like I expect it to be, then he's going to have a good year. Now, hopefully, Oklahoma's playing with more leads in the third and fourth quarter that you can run the ball a whole lot more. And you can just grind out the clock. That wasn't the case last year. Last year, you had to play from behind in too many instances, especially when it came to the fourth quarter. I expect everybody's going to get touches on this running back depth chart. You're going to see 4 running backs play. But if Jayden Ott's not getting a significant helping of the work, then that's a bad running back rotation. Now, there's always a potential that you could redshirt a guy like Taylor Tatum. You could redshirt Xavier Robinson. I can't remember if they redshirted Xavier Robinson or not. You don't have to play those guys. They're still young players. You're going to have time to continue to develop them. But you got to get them some opportunities to go continue to play and get better. But you've got to ride Jayden Ott. So I'm not sure, man. I think he could have a 1,000-yard season. I really do. Jay, he responded on his social media account. And he said he's buying that Jayden Ott's going to have a 1,000-yard season. I would like to, but I'm kind of with a lot of the fan base that it's like, hey, I just don't know what the running back rotation is going to look like. How's DeMarco Murray going to manage the running back room? If he's going to manage it the same way he has the last couple of years, then no. But if he goes into it saying this is the guy, we're going to give him 80% of the work at running back, then yeah, absolutely he could. If Jayden Ott gets 200 carries, he's going to have a 1,000-yard season. I would be shocked at this point if he didn't, but that's just where Oklahoma's running back rotation has been the last few years, is that we just have no idea how it's all going to play out. And we don't really know how this offensive line is going to perform. I expect it to be better. But until we see it on the football field against a team like Michigan in week 2, and maybe that won't be the fully unearthed version of this offensive line, but that'll give us a really strong indication of what this offensive line is going to look like. And if it's better, then we're going to have a much better running game. And we know that Brent Venables wants to run the ball. He wants to play some clock control stuff. But until we see this offensive line go out there and do it, and they go out there and they push people around and they have a great game against a team like Michigan, and they put up good rushing numbers week in and week out, it's hard to expect that. The talent is there for Jayden Ott. He's got the ability. Can the things around him come together enough so that that ability is on display? And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. You can check out my channel, or his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, for my buddy Jay on vacation, I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer Sooner.